Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Tailgunner bassist and founder Tom Hewson to the podcast. Tailgunner released Midnight Blitz back on February 6th with Napalm Records. Tom talks about his love for and wanting to make classic British heavy metal, finding the right band members to execute the musical vision in his head, signing with Napalm Records, the visual aesthetic of the band and heavy metal as a whole, and a lot more. Midnight Blitz is an absolute killer record, one of my favorites of this young new year so far. Whether you like British heavy metal or not, I highly recommend checking this record out because I think it is so good. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in our show notes or at asthestorygrows.com for our mailing list, our Discord server, and the Patreon page, where $1 a month will get you early access to every episode. And to our $1 a month Patreon members, I'm going to try to be better about getting things up earlier for you guys. And I want to make sure you check out February's sponsor, Tapehead City. You go over to tapeheadcity.com where they have cassettes by Bad Brains, Bad Religion, Refused, The Descendants, and so much more. You can get your heavy metal cassettes, your hardcore cassettes, your punk rock cassettes, your experimental noise, your country, your hip hop, whatever you're looking for. If you love cassette tapes, go to tapeheadcity.com. And thanks to Tapehead City for sponsoring the podcast this month. Enjoy today's conversation with Tom Hewson of Tailgunner. I figured that's probably what happened. Does your shirt say New Metal Sucks?
Yeah, it does.
Fucking right. I guess I don't have to ask you how you feel about the new metal revival happening right now.
I genuinely didn't know there was a new metal revival.
Oh yeah. It's a whole fucking thing. Just ignore it.
Yeah, each to their own. Whatever.
Yeah. Outside of England, which is all your bio says, where are you located?
The band is literally from all over England. That's why we don't really say our hometown. I had to search long and hard to band together, so it couldn't be formed in one city. So yeah, all over the place. Nice. Where'd you grow up? I grew up just outside Liverpool, but I moved a million times in my life. Pretty much a house for every year of my life, and I've lived all over England. I've got a strange accent. I live in Portsmouth on the south coast.
Okay, nice. What was that experience like? Is that like, I don't know, I know like in America people move all the time. You're just like, oh, are you a military kid? Is that, I don't know if that's a thing in England the same, or if it's just like, I don't know, kind of a shitty family situation.
Yeah, no, not in my case. I think, my parents just had a wide variety of jobs, and, we rented, so a lot of the time, the landlord would want to move back in or renovate or whatever it was. So we just constantly moving.
Gotcha. What gets you into music? And I guess like, is music like a grounding thing for you where it's like in the chaos of moving all the time, there's like always music?
It's funny because I always thought that I wasn't really interested in music when I was a little kid, but really I was. I just didn't realize kind of what it was or what it was about. I remember being really, really small and going on a family holiday, and someone bought me like a cassette for a Walkman, and it was ABBA's Greatest Hits, and I was like 2 or 3, and I didn't know what that was, but I remember like enjoying it. And really, it was hearing AC/DC's Back in Black album. As soon as I heard Brian Johnson sing, that just, changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And I'm the same person ever since that moment. And that same day, I heard the Sex Pistols, Guns N' Roses, and Iron Maiden, and I've never really looked back.
Nice. This band is like this traditional British heavy metal band, but was there ever a point where you were just like, this is cool, how can I get heavier? Like, did you go down a death metal trail or something different, or was it just always that like classic metal or hard rock that stuck with you?
In terms of Tailgunner, there's always been one specific thing that I really wanted to do, but in my own tastes, yeah, I listen to loads of different stuff. Probably, the heavier end is black metal stuff. That's probably as heavy as I go. And on the other end, I like pop music.
Yeah.
I great choruses and things. So yeah, I'm all over the place really. And it's funny how much of that I think you can actually apply to your own work as a songwriter and apply to this band. I mean, I probably wouldn't write the choruses that I write if I wasn't into ABBA and Marina and the bands. But similarly, Bathory have been a big influence on this band. Whether people hear it or not, it's another thing. But Cawthorn has been a huge inspiration for me. So it's interesting where you take things from without expecting it.
Nice. At what time did you pick up an instrument and start trying to play?
I was 12 when I first started playing bass. I'd never played any instrument before that.
Nice. What led you to bass and not guitar?
Because my friend in high school needed a bass player for his band. So I originally wanted to learn guitar because I saw Billy Duffy on the cover of the Sonic Temple album from The Cult, and I just thought that was the coolest looking thing ever. But yeah, he said to me, well, my band needs a bass player. And, I thought about it for maybe half a day, and I wanted to be in a band more than I cared what instrument I played. So, and I'm very, very glad that it is bass,
Yeah. It kind of can hone your skill, but don't have to get crazy.
Well, I like how much melodic freedom a bass has within a song that I think guitar players don't always have. They have to stick to the riff or the chords or something, whereas the bass can move around and kind of not be in anyone's way, which is it makes it really fun. I think there's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah. Because you were moving around so much, was it difficult when you were kind of a teenager to be in bands, to stay in bands, to form bands?
No, I was a little more settled from the age of 13. We still moved a lot, but within the same area. So I had a band through high school, from kind of 12 until 17.
Okay.
I formed another band from 18 to when I was, 21 or something, and left that band and then started Tailgunner.
Nice. Yeah, let's talk about Tailgunner. I know from reading the bio, there's kind of a history from the inception and idea of Tailgunner to the band kind of being a fully formed band. Obviously, there's a pandemic in the midst of that, but what was kind of your initial inception for this idea?
I'd, played in other people's bands, and Tailgunner was really about just, I wanted to do the band that I've had in my head since I was a kid, without trying to convince other people around to a certain way or something. It was I'm just going to do exactly as I want to do without any compromises. And I'm going to be really selfish, basically, and just, be in the band that I always wanted to see growing up and never really came along. So, I think that's why it took such a long time to get together, because I had a very specific goal in mind as to what it should be, which is just pure heavy metal with, all of the bits to go with it, all of the solos, all the leather studs, whatever, and without any apologies and any compromises.
Yeah. Was there ever a point in there where you were maybe I should sing or learn guitar? Was it always just I'm going to play bass because this is my instrument, and just bring people to me?
Yeah, no, I've always played bass, and I think by the time I started to form Tailgunner, I've been playing bass for such a long time that I write on guitar, I write our songs on guitar, but I suck at guitar, man. So I have no hope as a guitar player. I can't play the drums, so that's out the window. And, I would love to be as good of a singer as Craig is, but that's never going to happen. So, I continued on the bass. And the thing is as well, it meant that I didn't have to find a bass player, because they're probably gold dust to try and actually find.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, one of the things in reading through the history of the band is you've had no shortage of lineup changes throughout your time. How has that process been? Has there ever been a moment of just discouragement, of just damn, I can't keep this together?
No, it's funny because people talk about lineup changes, but I think that's only really paid attention to because we're in this, social media world where everyone knew about the band as soon as we formed, as soon as we put out a song, it was out there. But we've had less lineup changes than Iron Maiden, Guns N' Roses, or AC/DC had before they even made their debut album. So, just kind of let it sit there, really. And we've had a very solid lineup now. Rhea's been with the band since before we released the debut, and Eddie's been in the band a year now, but I think he was the drummer that we always needed because the guys we had before, great players, but were more rock and roll drummers. Yeah. Whereas they wouldn't have worked for this new album because it's more technical. There's more double kick, more fast songs. So we needed a guy that was a real technical player. And I feel like now we have the lineup,
What kind of leads you to that traditional heavy metal sound is the thing you want to do? And why do you think that sound has endured for all these years? There's still bands like you doing it and kicking ass, right?
Because for me, it's the best sound. It's the way heavy metal is supposed to sound. It's never a conscious choice to play old school metal or whatever. It's just that's what we grew up on was Maiden, Priest, Dio, Halloween, Megadeth, Merciful Fate, all of those great bands and so many more. And so, like I say, that's just what came naturally for us. We never decided we're going to play 80s style metal or, we're going to be this band or that band. It was just, you like Maiden and Priest? Yeah, me too, man. Okay.
Yeah, nice. You talk about the technicality ratcheting up for this album. I mean, listening to the debut full length and then this record, it's clear every aspect of the band is improved. It's better. It sounds better. It's recorded better. The songs are more well written. Is that just the process of kind of finding the members to fit to make this happen, or is it all that playing shows and the process of just knowing what works and what doesn't work?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there's things that we wanted to do on the debut album that we couldn't have done because the band was not technically proficient enough. And I include myself and Craig and Zach and, everyone that remains from the debut within that. I wasn't, as a songwriter, in the right place at that point because I'd never written songs before the debut album. And so a lot of it comes with experience and comes with that confidence that you get from the reaction that we had to the debut. I think that really, like I said, I'd never written songs before. And when people really enjoyed that album, I went, wow, okay, maybe I can aim a little bit higher, Yeah. So that happens. And also it's the other side of it. Like you said, we've been out on the road and played over 100 shows, and that experience will rub off on you and make you a better band. So, it all feeds into itself.
Yeah. How were you guys able to have your first show be opening for KK's Priest?
It wasn't our first show.
Not your first show? Okay.
No, it was our first big show. And I guess we were lucky. We put out our debut EP Crash Dive. KK heard it and loved the band and invited us, and it was that simple, really. It was crazy for us because the stage was bigger than probably any venue we'd played. Yeah. Before then, we'd just done we'd done shows in very, very, very small clubs to 100 people max, or bars or whatever. So then that was the start of everything, really, for us, that show.
Nice. This new record's on Napalm. How'd you get connected with Napalm Records?
The debut came out on a label. We made the debut for no money and did really well with it. And we went back to that label and said, okay, we've proven our point. Now give us some money. And they said, well, you did it for no money last time, so you can do it for no money again this time. And we were like, fuck that. No, we're leaving. Actually, we had to go through this whole, legal thing, which, we won't go into, but we knew we wanted to sign with Napalm. KK's band are with Napalm. We're managed now by the same guy as well. So there was that prior connection, and, we sent the demos off, and Napalm really liked what they heard, and we had some meetings and calls, and, there's such a perfect label for us because unlike a lot of other labels, they don't just sort of have bands that have made their name elsewhere back in the day and are now huge. Napalm have bands that they've taken from being little club bands to now being arena bands, and that kind of career trajectory, and that's what we want to emulate, So I feel like they're the biggest and best now in metal for a reason, and it's a really great place to call home.
New album's called Midnight Blitz. I'm curious about the lyrical inspiration for this album. It seems like some of the songs, especially later in the record, have some maybe religious or spiritual undertones in them.
Yeah, there's a running theme throughout this record. I mean, it's by no means a concept album, but, there's a lot talking about dealing with your own mortality, the finite nature of life, and the journey into the great unknown after death, and what is the afterlife and heaven and hell and all the rest of it. And I think part of that comes from growing up and getting a little bit older and whatever, and it's something that I don't think it's even so much a choice sometimes. If that's what's on your mind, that's what you're going to write about. And why we have Tears in Rain on the record, because so much of that subject matter is spoken about within Blade Runner, or maybe not literally, but that's the whole theme of that movie, and that's why that song's on there. And the same with Follow Me in Death. That is a song about the band, but it's about how through heavy metal, through your art, through what you do in your life, your legacy, you can be eternal, because there'll be people that never forget what it was that you did. Eulogy is about that journey into the afterlife and into the great unknown, and there's other bits and pieces throughout the record, but that is really the key running theme, is this kind of spiritual thing, I guess. But it's a positive. It's not like an oh my god I'm gonna die kind of like, it's a positive and uplifting one, I think.
My favorite song on the album is War in Heaven, because I think the record is such a high, and that song as the ballad hits so hard, and it's such a great chorus. And then it like ramps up immediately after that. It's like this perfect like oddball on the record, but it's so fucking good. Like,
thank you. Yeah, that was, KK said to us, you can't you can't be an old school heavy metal band without a ballad. And oh fuck, dude! Because if you heard the debut, it's like a real raw kind of speed metal thing, and I didn't know if we could write a ballad, if I'm honest. And we didn't want to make it cheesy, because we could have sat and written a ballad and easily, but it probably wouldn't have been very good. It would have been cliche and cheesy, and and we had to wait. And we were in the studio doing some demos in the summer of 2024, and our guitar player, Zach, he started to play something on his guitar, and I said, what's that? And he was like, oh, it's nothing. And I went, right, we have to record that right now. And that ended up being the guitar intro for War in Heaven.
Nice.
And then, of course, we got Adam Wakeman to come and play synths on it, and, legend from Ozzy and Sabbath and Deep Purple. So very, very cool to have him on that song. And I think it turned out great. And when someone like KK puts a challenge ahead of you can't let him down. So I'm glad it turned out so well. Yeah.
It seems one of the things that, classic heavy metal is known for is the visual aesthetics, whether it's the band logos, the mascots. Like, is that something, obviously artwork with Napalm is super elevated to the debut. Is that something you've thought a lot about, is the visual aesthetics, whether it's a mascot, logos, like how you're presenting the band in that way too?
100%. It's one of the coolest sides of, I think, being in music is all of that. You know, I know some bands say it's only about the music, and you know, the music is the most important, but everything's the most important. And I love the visual side of being in a band. I love everything from the logo, the artwork, the stage show, what we wear on stage, and it's all part of the fun for me. And the thing is, you know, with the artwork for this record, and you know, the same sort of concept was on the first, but heavy metal used to be so cool for artwork. It used to be so fun, and you go back to the 70s and 80s, there's these amazing, crazy pieces of artwork, and I actually think in recent years that's become very sterile. And even from a lot of those classic bands, the modern artwork, I think, is, you know, I look at Metallica's like 72 Seasons and compare that with like Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning, like, you know, so, I feel you could say the same for Maiden as well. I don't want to shit on all of these bands I love, you know, but I think it's been a bit of a lost art form, and that's what we wanted, is something that when you're flicking through the record store, or, you know, these days online or whatever, you have the artwork that really jumps out at you and makes you think, fuck, like, what's that? And, you know, grabs you by the collar. And that's what we wanted for this record. And, you know, we'll play the first show tomorrow in front of the new backdrop for this album, and I'm so excited to have that on stage. But I think it's going to be so cool. So the artwork is it's a stressful side, to be honest, because you work hard on a record, you don't want the wrong art to fuck it up, you know. So it's a stressful side, but I think we're very lucky to work with an incredible artist on this, and I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah. Album's out tomorrow. You guys have so many tours lined up. You have a bunch of support runs taking you basically from now through the summer. Once you get through that, is the plan to like settle and rest, or are you looking like, how do we keep this ball rolling? You know?
We have a huge tour to announce for the autumn winter. It's our biggest one yet. Biggest shows, longest tour. I think it's going to make a lot of people very happy, and that'll run right up until the end of the year at Christmas time. And then 2027, we're already fleshing out. You know, we've got plans to play all over the world. We should be coming over to the States, and hopefully we'll make it to everywhere else from there. So we'll be touring this record for quite some time, you know, a few years, I think. And the plan is to come absolutely everywhere that we can do.